States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everybody to a jam-packed meeting in August, but it's beginning of August, and we are always happy to get together. And we're going to probably modify the agenda a little bit.
There's a supplemental personnel report, if we could add that to the consent, to supplemental dated today.
We'll do that, and there was a notation that we'd be swearing in Sean Eversley Bradwell as the Vice President of the Board of Education tonight, in that he was not at the last meeting when he was elected Vice President of the Board of Education, and Sean Eversley Bradwell is not here tonight, so we will expected him, but I'm sure he's been in something that he really needs to do. So we will do that next time, or if he does happen to be able to make it tonight, we'll do it later. But for now, we will move that to another day and time. And public comment period, we don't have anyone.
We don't have anyone.
And Bob and Dave and he's already
Everything's good.
said about all you wanted to say tonight, so I think we're
He was on the agenda, so he...
right, exactly. So, yeah, and Dave's going to be talking in a few minutes, the other day. So if there's nothing else, we'll keep moving. And anything the board wishes to say other than Brad's been kayaking and...
Been away.
I'm back.
It's all good.
I have one thing to say, and I have to say a big thank you to Mike Nemhart, who's one of our aides in BJM. I had a minor fender bender last week, Wednesday, and I was by the side of the road, and who do I see pull over to make sure I was okay but Mike? So Mike, if you're watching, thank you so much. I appreciate the effort.
All right.
And that's part of the beauty of being in the ICSD. We're all family, and we look out for one another. So.
It's great. And we're very happy that Mike is keeping an eye on board members wherever they are in town. So that's good.
I appreciate that too.
And so thanks to Mike. And consent agenda. E, go ahead.
Let's stay on Mike. Mike also was instrumental in organizing a old timers basketball game down at GIAC last. What's today? I'm forgetting what day was it? Saturday?
Yeah.
Big Mike.
It was fantastic. The Ithaca City School District was well represented. Dr. Brown was out there actually moving, not stuck in stone. A defensive whiz, in fact. So I'm going to give Mike credit for that. We had several aides. We had a superintendent. We had a lot of people who participated, and that was, from what I understand, pretty much his doing. So again, good looking out, Big Mike. That was a blast to watch.
That was fun.
And I was not there, Dr. Brown, but that's okay. My knee was fine. Feeling just fine. On to consent. Anyone else? Are we good?
I'll move the consent as presented.
Second.
Right, Chris. Anything that we need to talk about other than combustible trays?
Compostable.
No, I know. I said.
Yeah, but you're on television.
I said combustible a few years ago, and there was.
You're on trouble.
There was a lot of words, it's a lot of words. But they're compostable trays, and we do have to bid those out. They're used throughout the district, I guess, right? By the truckload.
The EPC financing arrangement is there for all to see.
Right, and there's lots of whereases and therefores.
Yes, there are.
Any questions regarding that
one previously?
Right, okay. And various personnel reports and the modifications to...
Just the one that we added.
All right, anything else? Any questions? We good? Move seconded, all in favor? That's everyone that's here, which is a good thing. And we'll move on, Dr. Rao. Well, we have a little sticky that tells me where you are. Yeah, it's part of the efficiencies that Jennifer has brought to our meetings, and I'm very happy about that.
Dying over here.
Modern technology is amazing.
Well, I keep flipping through. You have to get there somewhere, and you get lost.
two quick announcements about some upcoming activities the board knows about already, but I want to remind you and the community. Summer graduation will be held on August 22nd at 6 p.m. in the Black Box Theater. And again, we're asking anyone and everyone to come to this very special opportunity to celebrate young people. And I'll say it now, I think we may, at the end of the summer, have one of the highest, if not the highest, graduation rates in the history of the City School District at the end of December. So we have some young people who are working very hard to finish up and be on time, an on-time graduate in our wonderful school district. Also, we're going to pass down a flyer that's hot off the presses. We're announcing this special day. It's extra special, September the 6th, which is always been a special day because it's my birthday. But on this year, it's going to be our convocation. And we're going to start convocation this year at 8:30 a.m. And that will begin with some introductions of new staff, some recognition of staff who've been here for quite a while. And then it'll also be the State of the District address, which is something that's in policy for me and our team to update the community about the efforts of the school district. Also, which is one that actually, I can't think of it happening before, but we're going to have a special luncheon on that day. That's going to be co-sponsored by our employees associations. So we're really excited about that opportunity for everyone to get together in unity and have some fun, get to know each other a little bit better, break some bread, and celebrate. And this year, the theme is going to be student-centered. You're going to hear much more about that as over the next couple of weeks, but the address will be about what does it mean to be student-centered, and we can also be talking about some of the things we've done and will be doing. So again, convocation, September 6th, beginning at 8:30 sharp, we get going. We have a lot to get in on that morning. We're hoping to see all board members there as well. Then that's all I have. That's the question.
Appreciate it, Dr. Brown. Anything for the superintendent?
I just want to say about August graduation and the district's focus to get our kids to graduate on time. And I know that the June graduation date, a lot of people are hard and fast and it's the end of the world. But we do a lot of work. The school district does a ton of work in order to make that August graduation something accessible for students so they can continue on with the rest of their lives. And I think I would like the public to recognize what it is and what it does for their students and their children. So it's not a small thing, you know, and it's available, and it's not, if you don't make it in June, August is there for you.
Caps and gowns and families.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really just the same, and it's a great effort. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, we started doing that. I don't know that, I don't remember.
4 or 5 years ago.
Right. And it
Started in the library, moving to a bigger venue.
Yep, I remember.
To accommodate the families.
Exactly. Great. Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. And audit committee member appointments.
I'll move to appoint Jay True, Frank Lee, and Don Waddell as members of the at-large community to serve on the audit committee for the 2016-2017 school year.
I'll second.
Second by Chris.
One of the few school districts that actually has outside, well, first of all, we have an audit committee that regularly meets. It makes this a bit of a rarity.
It is the law, Brad.
I understand, but still makes this a bit of a rarity. And we actually follow the advice to have members of the audit committee who are not members of the Board of Education on the audit committee. And these three folks have agreed to do that.
And frankly, Don Waddell have done it for many years.
Yeah.
Probably 4 years, perhaps.
Brings Jay back as a reprise from his board role.
And obviously Jay, who's been chair of the audit committee as a board member, came back and he's a at-large member from the community. Always good to see Jay, and it's an opportunity to have Jay's input. And and we really want to thank those gentlemen again for volunteering. It's not always exciting stuff, but frankly, the audit report that is reviewed in September, those are external internal auditors, meaning those are the CPA firm
They're
that
independent auditors.
that we hire to come in and look at our books and see exactly where we spend our money throughout the year. That's a report in September, and that's really a very important meeting for board members in the community to to understand where do we spend money and where are we now. Our budget process is really projections, and these are levels of spending that we cannot exceed, and the audit provides us that information about where did we actually spend the money, and so that's and where are we and what our fund balances are and how are we positioned for our next school year, not the 16-17, but will be the 17-18, and always looking forward and critical to that 5-year plan for the district that the state auditors expect us to have, and critical for the exec team to try to plan to meet the needs of the kids. So it's these guys do a great service, and audit committee meets 4 times a year, and and that's one of the very important meetings. So I certainly encourage board members to attend that if they can. So with all that said, move seconded, all in favor? That's everybody. Thanks. And David Hanna. Very happy to see David Hanna here, our Director of Athletics for the Ethics City School District, and you're going to give us a few updates and something about style.
Our style,
They say style makes fights.
While David was getting set up, it was good. I saw David as I was struggling to find my legs on Saturday night. I saw David in the stands, and it seems like everywhere we go now, if it has something to do with athletics or wellness, David is there. So you started like in July, David, officially, June?
yes, July 1st.
And he's been everywhere, and I have parents who find me anywhere I go and say we really appreciate the new athletic director. So again, thank you for being everywhere and making yourself known to the community already.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So I believe you all kind of have this presentation in front of you. I don't need to say it, but feel free to interrupt me at any time. I try to put together something for 10 to 15 minutes as far as an update of kind of where we are, goals and missions. I know some of you are aware of what I spoke to during the interview process, but I wanted to kind of re-present it so that everybody kind of knew where we're headed as far as I'm concerned, as far as direction of athletics. So the first part here, I just wanted to talk about, this is some of what I was going to go through, just to give you a general idea of, I think, in order to know where you're going, you should have a mission that's informed by the educational mission of the department, or of the school district, I should say. Talk about team strategic plans. Communications has been a really, really big focus. There are some areas where I thought we needed to run as fast as possible to get some things done. One of the biggest complaints I've heard or concerns from parents was just a lack of communication from athletics, just simple things like trying to find scores, could be a challenging, just hearing directly from coaches, and there are things that can come from the department that really makes the coach's job easier to be able to do that. So in some areas where I felt we had the authority to do that, we're going as fast as possible. Every day I try to think of, beginning of the day is how can I support the coaches and the staff, and then what can I do from students. So that's kind of that next bullet of staff support. I'll talk about space utilization, having issues over there that I'll talk through, and then student development. And that's why we're here as educators and feeling that we're an extension of the school day. So everything we do is framed with that in mind. And then a brief, talk about the fall sports. So as you have there, just kind of the mission as I see it for our department, a couple lines that I just wanted to mention. The first one, and the first line there is the buzzwords there, to enhance the educational mission of Ithaca City School District. So it's a bit of a misnomer. Those that aren't familiar with athletics, that they don't quite necessarily understand that athletics really, for many, is the hook. It is the thing that pulls kids into the educational process and keeps them engaged. There's nothing more powerful from my vantage point than a mother of a 5th grader that can actively say, well, you can't do that until your grades are such and such, but you can't participate until you actually go to all your classes. And it's incredibly powerful, I think, for a parent to be able to say that, for a coach to be able to say that to a child, because many times, as the light bulb doesn't go on until 11th grade, 12th grade, sometimes even college. There's students that do well academically, but the only reason they do is because a coach has encouraged them to, or they would not be able to play. I'll define the statistics, but I saw it recently, I think it was a few weeks ago, I said something like 42% of students are in school and continuing in school, but only because of athletics. And so I really feel that it's a huge leverage tool that oftentimes gets underutilized and underappreciated as far as it's really the hook that keeps people in school and saves many, many lives. So that's the first point that I wanted to point out there. And then the last sentence of the first paragraph, we seek to teach the principles. So the next slide that you'll see is the principles of excellence that we're going to talk about throughout the year that will really guide the next 3 years that are in line with the district principles. But teaching the principles of service to others, commitment, togetherness, dependability, and the excellent mindset to all student athletes. So really, in athletics, even more so than other areas, there's a lot of self-entitlement where you're concerned about playing time, concerned about the me, focus on me, just that's inherent with this generation, but it's also inherent to athletics. So really trying to change that, I think, from an affirmative program, doing that is getting them to turn outwards and focus on others. Service to others is really an active, proactive way to do that. And so this is something that we're really going to talk a lot about. And you see the very, very last line of that second paragraph there, overall goal, when you talk to a student, should be able to ask you, well, what you just did, was it consistent with you being a positive influence in the community? And if it wasn't, then you're not doing what you need to as an athlete, because you are a leader in every classroom you're in. Oftentimes, from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade, you're the one that's out there representing our school, so you need to act accordingly as far as being a leader and what that means going forward. So principles of excellence, I'll just touch on them very, very quickly. And the reason I'm mentioning them is because they really are important. We're going to talk through at least 2 or 3 of them at every single one of the kickoffs. We're going to have speakers talk to them. I'm actively pushing and encouraging our coaches to talk to their players at the huddle, at the end of practice, before practice, having their own creative ways to talk about these things, because I believe that they're important. So the first one, as you see there, positive influence, and the last one is serving others. What are you doing to actually impact the community? And number 2 there, as you see, is trust, as I have that highlighted and kind of underlined, because that's going to be the theme, or that is the theme of our department for this year. There's a lot of dissension, I would say, at the lower levels, whether it's this club team doesn't necessarily like this club team, and the coaches don't necessarily get along, or there's just a lot of kind of that. So one of the ways to kind of dispel that is for our coaches to talk about it, for our leaders to talk about, well, we need to trust each other. In order for you to earn playing time, we need to be able to trust what you're doing on Friday nights, Saturday nights, what you're doing with your academics. So once our leaders are talking about that, I think you really change the culture of the athletic and the athletic teams. So as I mentioned, communications is really a huge focus of what we do. And just having been a college football coach the last 11 years, a good 50 to 75% of what you do is recruiting, right? So the closest state I recruited for Cornell was the state of Illinois. So I've just been exposed to a lot of athletic programs, a lot of different ways of funding things, a lot of different ways of doing things across the country. What is common for really quality, high academic schools, that they often, most of the time, have the same in athletics. And what actually drives the imaging of the school typically comes from the athletic program. Whether it's the same logo and the same color, you see it around town and on flags, and a lot of that, does come from the school, because athletics is part of the school. Much of that is actually derived from the pep rallies that are really for athletics, or from the Friday nights, that's another part of athletics. So I think I personally felt that we need to start there, that we need to start with who are we. I think people know who we are, but wasn't really represented symbolically in terms of the I was inconsistently used. And part of the reason that I began with this was just doing a walk around, just looking in our equipment room, and you would see literally 15 to 20 different styles of kind of logos and what they call kind of word marks, and none of them were wrong. There was nothing wrong with any of them, but the process, as I saw it, needed to kind of change in terms of what we looked like, so that everybody can look to the 3rd grader, the 8th grader, the 12th grader, and say, well, yeah, that's who we are. That's the I, that's our colors, and everybody can speak from the same language. So in terms of the process, this is kind of what we came up with, the company that we worked with, and as you see there, it's derived from, the influences for me were Iowa State, University of Minnesota, a couple others, USC, as far as the final colors, looking around at what we already had, and it seems, people kind of say, well, it's cardinal, it's not really red, so that's where we started. If you look at USC's color, they're a cardinal, a version of red, and then they're a gold, so that seemed to be who we are. So what I really liked about this was the Iowa State he wasn't just flat, it's kind of bold and like kind of attached shoes, and that to me felt like athletics. It was kind of a bold, aggressive, while still paying homage, if you will, to our old I, which was a little bit more flat. So this has two colors in it. The I does, the actual I, where it's a darker cardinal, and then a lighter cardinal there. So this is a part of the branding guide or the style guide that was created for us. And it all starts with the letter mark. So they encourage me over and over and over again to look at these as assets, that no one of them has to kind of stay the way they are. They're meant to be used together, right? So that you don't have to use them in any one particular way, but you can use them in many different ways. So this is the letter mark. Okay, 4 different colors there.
So you said something there, can you go back?
Sure.
The official colors of the athletic department in the school
Yes.
is cardinal.
Cardinal, yes. Cardinal, yes.
Just wanted to state it for the record.
It's
Yes.
historically accurate.
Yeah.
Yes,
Correct.
yes, right. And there's some programs that have used the big red, and some that have used other versions of red. And the reason they do is because, it's more expensive to order the custom cardinal that would actually be more matching to what we
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay. So that's the letter mark, and I'll get into the colors a little bit more in a second, but 3 different versions of the letter mark. So this is the I, right? So that you can use with light background, that you can use with dark background. This is the same version, right? In terms of how it looks, it's just a different color. And then this is the last one here. It's our more traditional, just kind of flat I, for whatever reason, maybe cost reasons with a particular team, or when we give this to the youth bureau, maybe they don't want to pay for 2 different colors within the I, so you give them kind of a flat version there. So I've been excited so far because the leadership that we've shown, through our office and through Dr. Brown's office, is that people have responded to the messages that have gone out to say, well, this is what we're using. It's not mandatory. And so like I met the GAC today, their whole staff, and they were excited about, okay, well, we can use this. So yeah, you can use it. Please don't sell it necessarily because it's ours, but it's meant to be ours. So that was the vision where, again, in other districts, you don't see another version of their logo. There's one version, and that's what everybody uses. And so the Youth Bureau will be using this, if not this year, they're excited to try to use it next year, at least for their football program. So the idea is that this isn't just us, this is anybody that's in athletics. So you're a club softball team, they said, can we use it? I said, sure, go ahead and use it for next year, so that we all kind of look the same. The kids start to visually, symbolically, and functionally look to the high school program as where they want to be. And you do that by providing them with symbols. So that's the letter marks, and here's the word marks here. So there's different versions. I didn't do it's a bad word, but I'll use it in terms of the designer. He would kind of design something and say, no, that's okay. And then at the end, it was like, go back and I kind of like that actually. So then he just kind of included all the versions for us in the end. So we have 2 main versions, right? So this is a 3-color word mark. On top, there's another secondary 3-color word mark. So if you want light, you have the money to do 3 colors. Well, maybe you don't. So all the way to the right here is a 1 color. So maybe it just needs to be a gray shirt and just our cardinal on there. That's a lot cheaper to get, for some of our modified teams or from other teams. But now we have all these versions. It's the same italics, it's the same colors, but now you have different versions. So the idea is this makes it a lot easier. I talked to BSN recently, talked to Chip over at Raptex and say, all right, they prefer this. This is how they deal with Ithaca College. This is how they deal with Cornell. So no longer, can a coach go around me, because I've already talked to them and I've supplied this to our suppliers to say, well, this is who we are. And I will give certain exceptions for the hockey program because historically that we just don't have the money to replace all their uniforms. But generally speaking, this is what the uniforms need to look like. And again, so that's just word marks, right? We have letter mark, word mark, and now you put them together to actually get the logos, right? So this is one version of the logo, where it's a 3-color I and then a 2-color Ithaca. Right, and then those are kind of the corresponding colors underneath there. To the left here, that's my favorite version of the Ithaca, right, where it's a 3-color darker version right there. And over to the right, I worked really closely with Amy Cronin, the head of our booster club, and she's had a lot of experience in higher ed. She helped the Ithaca College through their whole branding process. So the emails, every other day was going back and forth in the idea phase when when you get something from the designer, you don't like it at first, and it takes 20 trips back and forth, and okay, that's what it needs to look like. So this was her idea, the one on the right. This is really Union College, right? So if you're familiar with their logo, it says Union College with a U right in between, and it has a 17-something on the side there for when they founded their school. So we have this here, don't know what we're going to use it for yet. Maybe it's for our captain shirts, maybe it's for staff shirts, maybe it's something that you want a moniker you want to make a little bit unique, but it still can be used at least in athletics. So sports marks, how do you put it together then in the end, because our sports, they like, be more likely to buy something if it looks like it's for their sport, right? So we gave them these versions of the sports marks, where that one at the bottom, the secondary one, has the I, has football down, written below, and then we could probably put an Ithaca right across it. And then the same thing up top there. Well, these are two different versions. If you gave that to a kid, again, he'd be really happy because not only is it us, but it's also the team within us that provides them with an identity. The taglines were really just arbitrary things that I gave them, where they said, do some taglines, and so I chose the Go Red. What I try to do as an athletic director is, what do they actually say in the huddle? What do they actually break with? What are the noises they make? What does a crowd say at the games? And try to put those on shirts, just because those are the things we're more likely to wear, even though we have other things that we believe, like Little Red. Like that's still who we are, and that won't go away, but I wouldn't necessarily put it on a shirt necessarily, because I want the kids to wear it and for them to be saying what's on the shirt. That's kind of what you see at college events. This Ithaca One team is just something that, if you followed in my personal Twitter, and I do Facebook, and I do Instagram, it's just something that, again, trying to have an affirmative action to something that is that we've diagnosed as an issue, is just there's not a lot of connectivity. So the idea being that we are one team. The principal, to the AP, to myself, to the modified football coaches, to the varsity football coaches, to the GAC, to the youth bureau, that we are Ithaca One team. So over and over and over again, we're saying that to really, hammer that home with our kids. So I probably should have started with this, but this is just, design grade colors, right? With the RGB numbers, hex numbers. I won't go into the depth of this, but again, what we're providing designers, what we're providing our teams, what we're providing our booster club parent reps are the actual design grade information that they need to do high quality stuff. That's Ithaca. So these are all the numbers. So if you know a little bit about technology and computers, you can go on PowerPoint, you can click the colors from the background, and it'll ask you what are your RGB numbers. You can literally type those in, and now you have exactly what we want our colors to kind of look like. And again, a lot of this I'm not dictating people to, just strongly encouraging. If you use it, that'd be great as far as the athletic department is concerned. We wanted to provide some secondary colors. Kind of looked around the district when we began and saw, well, this elementary school, whether it's Fall Creek or they already kind of have a shade of blue. So we tried to add some things that when you looked around in the college world, they say, well, this is what Minnesota uses, but then they have this secondary color. That kind of looks nice. So we kind of wanted to add some, so that later on when we wanted to add some, they had somewhere to go with that. So if Fall Creek wants to keep being blue, or whomever uses blue, well, now you have a version that maybe you now don't have to go buy and get a designer, or it's not going to be different every time. You can actually give them these numbers so you can have some semblance of order. Same thing with the typography. I'm not bore you with that, but just the things that we type, we want it to be similar fonts, because that's what you normally do in a style guide. So the last thing, or amongst the last things as far as communication, was just the status of our website. So this is, you've seen the old website, so I think in the last month we've made significant improvements. Everything that we've asked for, it changes within the next couple of days. So I think for the first time in a little while, at least this past year, there's actually a lot of useful information on there, but it's still not up to where we believe it should be as far as an athletic department. As far as any college, university, high school, middle school, the most visited site typically is the athletic site. That's where parents go every day because they want to see scores. That's where kids will go because they want, it's just like ESPN, it's like the most watched network of sports, not just, So we made a decision early on to go with Presto Sports. Okay, so that's an organization that does probably 800 or so sports websites every year, from Harvard to Gilman, high school to every level you could think of. Whether it's private school at the middle school level, school districts, athletic departments at the high school level. Use this service, and what it really does is now it's a college grade website that will allow a parent, and again it's about utility for a parent now of a modified team, to click on a button, go to their team, be able to see the school picture for that particular year. There's my kid, and what's the schedule, and where are we going for that particular day. And then for varsity and JV, you'll have more interactivity where the next day they can click on it, and what's the actual score of the game, what's the roster, just a college grade type of website. So we're really excited about this website. Just to give you a better picture of what it looks like, this is kind of it here, right? So there's a number of websites that really influence Washington. The university where I worked before has a really high quality, but just very seamless website. The picture design that you see back there is really what Harvard kind of does. They have pictures back there that are faded out pictures of your school, and then as you click on sports up here to the left, once this is built out, it'll have every sport, and you click on the football one, and it'll be like faded out pictures of football players. So the things that are important to us, we won't go through them obviously all of them, but sports will have all our sports. Inside athletics will have like 12 different tabs from facilities to whatever, everything you can think of, APP process. Now there'll be information for every single one with PDFs. The Leadership Academy is going to be really important. We'll talk about that in a second. College readiness, support athletics. They'll be able to donate to us through the Booster Club. Booster Club will have information. Multimedia. So this is going to cost us about $4,500 a year, and it's going to go through the Booster Club. And the reason I'm saying that is because the multimedia part is what costs probably another $1,000. So if I'm a, again, 11th grade parent, I'm gonna go on the multimedia, I'm gonna be able to click a button and now download an app to my phone that will give me live, capabilities to get instant scores and whatnot. So you pay that extra $1,000 so that it's actually really, really useful. And I don't think we're gonna go anytime in the near future to live streaming or anything like that. You can do those things, but for now we just wanted, can they get the scores? Can you actually get information, and can we make it really a powerful tool for our parents? So as you look here, important things from my vantage point that you have here are thumbnails, right? So now we have the ability to put stories, put video or pictures in there. We have a composite calendar that is obvious what that would be. We have a sports shop here. We'll be able to sell gear through the Booster Club, all the things that you want to have. And so when this launches, the date, right now the goal is September 1st, but definitely by the first week of school, we're already building content so that when it goes live, all the scores from last year, JV and varsity will be in there. All the schedules will be in there for all of the fall sports. We already have 8 stories that have been written. I don't know if you know Jay Barnes, he used to be a journalist. So this summer he's been working on one feature story for every coach. So there's 8 done already for all the varsity head coaches, which is, interviewed them, we sent them information and had interviews. And right now we're doing video interviews. So by the end of next week, we'll have every varsity coach on video and interview that will be able to be spliced up into this.
In spite of the fact that Harvard uses it, that sounds good. And David,
Yes.
Again, you've reached an agreement with the sports boosters
Yes.
that they are going to fund the cost for
Yes.
this for
Yes, in perpetuity. Well, yes.
for a while.
Yes. The agreement was we do this for as long as I can. If I cannot find funding, and they said yes. So that's the kind of the agreement with the understanding that I'm going to work hard to find other resources, whether it's $20,000 donation that goes to the booster to pay for it, and or is it what can we look for in our budget, as far as infrastructure. But yes, that was the understanding. I've had a lot of conversations with David and Amanda. Okay, certain things were yeses if we can keep them budget neutral for the to where we don't incur free things now that we have to pay for in 2 years. So I'm very mindful of working with Amy and others in that spirit.
Right.
David, did I miss it, or is it not something that the industry suggests, or was it stuck on that website for past accomplishments, like Hall of Fame stuff,
Right,
and all
yeah.
that jazz?
So under Inside Athletics, I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet. You have to build it, like literally this is going tomorrow to be built out. So the designers will be building it out for 2 weeks. But Inside Athletics, it's either going to be archives or history or Hall of Fame. So I met with it's True is his last name, I forget his first name, but he does kind of a Hall of Fame stuff for athletics, right? So I met with him last week and discovered that we have all the information I didn't know we necessarily had. So that was exciting to be able to meet with him and say, okay, well, we do have the records. All right, great. We have the site now to put that on there. So yes, that will be on here.
I think it's important to have, if you're looking for donations, one source is obviously people who've been successful in the past. So having them see their name in lights can't hurt.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it'll take us some time to get records on there as far as historical records, but I think the easiest will be Hall of Fame. Probably not bios right away, but at least having the years and the names will be like years ahead of, in a positive way, kind of that should be good.
So now when I tweet from an athletic event and have to hashtag Ithaca One Team?
I cannot mandate that to anyone.
That, we can strongly recommend.
You strongly recommend,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the plan.
That's the plan?
So, just in the interest of wrapping up, I'll kind of skip some of the other things here, but the last thing is just fall sports, where are we headed? So, begins next Monday, which is exciting. So, all this work, all the students and coaches have been doing is wrapping up. So, it starts August 15th. We're really excited about that. A week later, August 22nd. This is one of the initiatives that I was really excited to do. It's similar to what other districts do, is let's have our modified sports start during the summer as opposed to the first week. And I really had the educational goal in mind that if I was a parent, I think it'd be much better if they didn't have to acclimate to the first day of practice on the same day as the first day of school. So that's just something that I changed, that parents, the silent majority as I talk to, they seem to be in favor of that. So where we could do that, we're doing that. And so that's why it says August 29th. It's the first time that we've ever started modified sports that wasn't dictated by schedule, but that's early. The other change I'll just to note as far as our what do they call kickoff meetings, right? So those are going to start now. They're going to be closer to the actual start of the season. They're traditionally maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the season started. So if we start this coming 15th, which is Monday for varsity and JV sports, we're going to have the first kickoff on a Sunday. So the first time they'll ever be on Sundays. It'll be Sunday, August 21st. And for modified, they've never had a kickoff before. This will be their first year where they have their own dedicated kickoff. So I thought that was important to do that for them, because their questions when they call are different from the parents, and they have very different questions. This will be the first time we can tell them what it means to wear the Ithaca across their chest, what it means to be in the community and wear the I, and have that, instill that pride and that culture, in addition to the logistics and the different things you want to train them, like eligibility and whatnot. Modify, as it says there, August 28th, like I said, and for the first time, they have one. And it'll also be before the season starts. Take advantage of that nervous energy they have the first day, which will be the 29th is when they start. The day before, they'll actually have a kickoff. So excited about that. Questions?
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. On one of your slides, you talked about, I think they were called principles. So
Yes.
one was trust, and the last one I think was service.
Yes.
Are you talking with your staff as well as with your students to talk about community? Because I think that bridges the gap between the two.
Yes.
In order to have trust or to work with others or to serve others, there has to be some type of sense of community for you to have a stake in conformity to care about others.
Sure, I would agree with that. And I think in the first staff meeting we had in June, I asked all of the coaches for a strategic plan of their program. So many of them have completed them, and some will get them to me by the first week of school. And I asked for 5 kind of pillars. The first one was community service. So this year, moving forward, you're required as a sports team to do 2 events out in the community. Whether it's something that we organize, like I think we're going to do Adopt a Family around Christmas time. We haven't decided if it's going to be Race for the Cure as a second thing. So I don't care what you do as a sports team, but modified JV, varsity, you have to do 2 things. So that's one way we're going to link them to the community. One of the other pillars we talked about is the pathway or the pipeline to the community. So at the end of the year, the visual I give them, because if you're a 5th grade girl, you know nothing about you by the beginning of the year, but by the end of the year, that 5th grade girl, if you coach sports, has to want to play for you. And so I try to be abstract and give them the parameters to be, creative as far as coaches. But by the end of the year, that player has to want to play for you. And then secondly, that player also has to want to be like the varsity players that you coach. And so there's a couple of different ways that we've done that, to where the coaches are using their own creativity to come up with that, but they know that's not a standard as far as that's who we are. If we're about serving others and being a positive influence, we have to do that all the way across. And so part of the evaluation, at the end of the year evaluation, the continual evaluation, where we talk on a weekly basis, is, well, what are you going to do, coach? Is it the car wash? Is it the reading at whatever elementary, whatever it is? It doesn't matter to me, but it has to be from your program to your players to actually give them to the community.
And do you have an idea of whether you're going to ask the coaches to do service in different communities, so they're not just serving certain communities and
Yes.
leaving out others?
Yes, that's not mandatory, because I can't mandate that specifically, but yes, we've had those conversations to where lacrosse, what I call money sports, just for lack of a better term, where the sports where underrepresented groups. Like when I talked to GIAC today, I told them that I'm representing you when I'm out at these meetings. And I told them I've been heavily involved with the softball community this summer, and it concerns me that we don't have representation of certain communities here. So I say the same thing to our coaches. So when you do camps, the other pillars we talked about are camps and clinics. So where are you going to do the camps? The camps don't want to be on our campus, but can you do a clinic across from GIAC in that little field there? So we're having active, real conversations about how we're going to do sustainable partnerships and how we're going to do those things.
To Nicole's point, everyone's taking their lead from you, and if these are your principles of excellence, folks are going to determine that these are the penultimate things.
Yes.
And I'm not suggesting you make a change, but from what I see up there, I assume that number 8 for you together means an internal thing, right? The team, the coaches, the folks are going to be together, but there's a certain sense of community that has to take place in the locker room, right, on the field, as well to excel and to pour that non-alcoholic champagne at the end. But if there's a place on this list for community, I would see it. I would see it there again. Certainly not telling what to do, but it's our country. I mean, our community is growing in 2 different directions. I mean, literally, this community because of wealth gap, because we're replacing people physically, right? Because of the way real estate is beginning to move. So any opportunity we can have, because we have such a big stick in this community, to put that stamp down and say we're about holding this community together, would be potentially a very valuable message to say.
We can do that.
But what I find exciting listening to you talk is that you are kind of trying to tie the athletics to a broader vision, and I really like the way in which you're kind of just thinking about things on all these different levels. And in terms of that question of community, it seems to me when I look at 1 through 10, that is community. So it's like those for me. When you're talking about community, positive influence together, mental toughness, serving others, they're kind of the components of it. So it seems like in a lot of ways with the things that you're emphasizing to be very much on the right track.
Or maybe the solution is just have no additional number, just say building community.
Building community.
When you said that, it's either it's together / community. I mean, it's just making it more explicit is easy to do.
Any resistance, David, from, you're probably doing an ask of some of the coaches that hasn't been asked before?
Not so much. I mean, it's not I think surprising. I mean, it's very similar to with the teachers, I think, to where they give and they give and they give and they give much beyond what they're actually not necessarily compensated for, but go in above the call of duty. That, by definition, is a coach, where it's after school and they may be compensated for this amount of time, but they're not compensated for the 3 months after the season where they're actually doing workouts. They're not compensated for what you see me tweet out during the summer. So in many ways, it's been really exciting, I think, for a lot of them, because now we're going to get support from my position in ways that it's not, explicitly, it wasn't in my job description to do these things and to help with GIAC or to help them, stand in their way with a club team that's not being particularly conducive to leadership or that's undermining the varsity team. So I think there really hasn't been resistance. I think it's just a wait and see approach by some, which has been fine. But from what I've learned, a lot of them they're just professionals that, for me, my job is to support them. If they do what we want them to do and do these things when the contract starts and they're coaching, that's, to me, enough in many ways. So there really has not been explicit resistance.
Right. David, it wasn't.
Sure.
My comment was, I guess, coaches that we all had, they always put tons of more hours in than that stipend that they got. Really was compensate them for, but they were key to keeping a group of kids together, a key to teaching, a key to those kids being in school, as you've said. So it's, but I think you're really just putting a program in place, and those expectations, and putting a culture that may not carry from one sport to another, some of our sports may have certainly a culture that meets your 10 principles of excellence, but I think, David, probably what you've found is that it's not universal. So we need that across all the offerings for the students in our district.
Sure, I would agree with that. And I think the honey part, I talked a lot about the accountability, but what we've done to support the coaches, we submitted a budget of $12,000 to the Booster Club for things that were important to me and to the leadership, and they approved every one of them. So it was $1,000 for the Leadership Academy, it was $5,000 for staff support. So now I've told I've asked the coaches, I said, well, now you're required in the ability that I can say that they're required to do professional development, but we're going to provide you resources. So you want to fly to the national convention for softball, whatever, well, we have resources for it. And I'm committed to trying to find within my own budget of money to free up for the same thing. So our coaches are going to volleyball, they're excited to do these. It doesn't feel like mandates when you're an invested coach. You're like, oh, so you're going to want us to do these things, but then you're going to provide resources for us to do it. And then overarching, we're going to do community events as an department, so we're not trying to give you more work. If you want to plug into what we're doing, let's do that, then that's fine. That's, over and over we try to say those things, and this is meant to add to what you're already doing and not be a burden.
I would have to say, I imagine the flip side is true too, that the traveling teams and the AAU style teams who have been out there well in front for years are probably, they can't quite believe you exist and you're actually offering support.
Along those lines, if I may, a few meetings ago we had our community here speaking to their concerns and their wishes for additional support around softball. At the club level all the way up through the varsity level. I'm going to be at a final game on Friday evening, and where they're going to be celebrating a great summer of growth for young ladies. What I also learned was that this man here had been coaching all summer, a team. I don't know how you did it, but you've been coaching young ladies, and what I've heard from parents is that program has taken some giant leaps forward already over the summer, and you see the support from the school district in doing so. So thank you for doing that also.
It's my pleasure.
Exactly, and that was a meeting that we don't typically get those requests from when we have a team come in. It's typically due to budget cuts. I'm sorry, we have to cut your sport. I mean, high schools across the state had to do that for many years. And we've never tried to do that, and it was tough to hear a program that was really wanting help or we can't. It's tough for me to hear kids in Ithaca say we can't compete. So it sounds like you and parents have taken on the challenge.
Yeah, it's been a team effort, and at the first meeting this summer, it was a record number. They told me they started this club last year. It was 50-some kids, young girls that showed up. Varsity coach was there, the varsity assistant was there, the JV coach was there, our modified head coach was there, and I was there as far as evaluating. And all those levels of coaches are coaching in the club program without me asking them to and without mandating it. So we're investing in that program, and they've improved the leaps and bounds already this summer. And the event I did want to mention, Dr. Brown's mentioning, is it's the culmination of the year for the club. They call themselves the Little Red Softball League. And so this is the last game of the top tier, which is the oldest group of 17 youth. So they're playing Marathon Crush at 7:30, Cass Park, under the lights on Friday night. So if anybody wants to come, the last opportunity to kind of support them in their off season as they get ready for the fall. So,
Put it in the calendar.
I have my hat, and I do wear it actually.
Landon's going out the first pitch.
Oh,
I'm just joking. I'm trying to get on.
she'll go flying towards the plate.
So Friday, 7:30? That's perfect. I have pen. So David, anything else you want to update us on? Fall coaches are all lined up, correct?
Just 95% there. I think the last couple are for modified. So I'm waiting for. Part of what we did with support, I don't need to go into all the details, is through BOCES, we have our own coaching series now where they're offering the free courses for AEDs, for CPR, for all that stuff that's kind of a headache for them to whatever. So we put together a year-long calendar to where they're doing that. So many of those are happening this week. So I wanted to wait for the board report for modified once they get all their qualifications done. We're trying to improve, their actual personnel files to make sure they're all up to date and whatnot, so there will be more coming at the 23rd meeting.
Outstanding, and winter sports are not far behind, so.
They're not. We just finalized the girls' schedule, met with lineup a few days ago, so we got 2 games for the girls at lineup. We're excited about this year. They got 2 at Cass Park. The boys' schedule is all set, and so we typed that into the deal, so it should be up on Visual Sports here in the next week or so. So it's moving forward, that's for sure.
Outstanding, David. Anything else? We will let a busy man go do busy stuff. So David, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on the list? Dr. Brown, any other business that we need to deal with?
I think we're set.
Meeting on the 22nd. We had a finance facilities, and now you've got commencement.
Yeah.
What do we want to do there? So it was a suggestion, I'm sorry, I was traveling today, so answering was not possible. We want to meet at 4?
There was,
But that's Chris's calendar. What time can you get there? Or we want to meet after?
there was a thought to perhaps Jennifer floated the idea of doing a halftime break.
What time can you get there, is the question.
I can get there by 5:30 the earliest.
So to try and split it.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
when's
It's
commencement.
6 o'clock.
6, right. So to commence.
So, we need to do it before the 23rd, right?
I know.
That'd be ideal.
So we're gonna do it at, I guess we're gonna do it at 7 o'clock.
All right.
Yeah, we apologize.
I apologize.
The high school sets the time, so.
Well, I don't want to hold it up and keep folks at a meeting till 9:30 either, so.
Oh, it is the first one of the year. You gotta be there.
All right.
Yes, you do. Chris.
I'm bringing coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand.
Committee meetings don't have to last 2.5 hours. Right, Amanda?
I will keep it as short as you like.
Yeah,
Sally.
don't believe us.
So your finance facilities will be after commencement.
Following commencement.
Right. Okay. Right, Jennifer, so we'll get that out.
Do you want me to say 7:30?
Oh, it shouldn't be that long.
Say 7.
It's going to be a public notice, so.
Let's say 7.
No, it's just finance facilities.
Oh, shoot, 7.
What's the date? What's the date?
We're walking over from the block.
22nd.
I keep
22nd?
Here?
Yeah, so,
Yep.
So anything else for the good of the group? Good, Chris?
I'm good.
Good. And the finance facilities guys will work that out. So anything else? Ann, you good? Nicole, good? Everybody good? Without further ado, we'll go watch Olympics or something. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.